I live out on Hoppatul. I moved here 10 years ago after working in New York City for 4 years. I was looking for a place with a little bit better views where I wouldn't have to look out a window and see a giant building or any large structures at all. And that plan was working out really well until about a month ago. Like a lot of you here, that's when I found out that the power link was coming through Alpine, was coming through Hoppatul. So, I mean, the first thing I did after mildly freaking out was I tried to stay cool and learn more about the power link and find out if this was just a case of something that was extremely important to San Diego and that, you know, some people were just going to have to take it for the team and I was going to have to be one of those people. So I started reading, going on the internet and researching power issues, researching the power link. And much of tonight is going to be showing you what I learned while I was doing that. And I'm not going to explain it because I don't know it very well. Fortunately, we have many experts here who are the ones who did all this research and developed many plans and many interesting ideas and very strong arguments for why the power link not only shouldn't be running through Hoppatul, shouldn't be running through Alpine, shouldn't be running through Boulevard or El Monte Valley, it shouldn't be running at all. So the next thing I did after that, after getting really fired up, was I started looking for other people who were fighting. Other people out in East County who were fighting the power link. And one of the first people that I ran into was Laura Seifert. I'd like to introduce her, and I'm going to let her tell you her story. Laura?
Good evening. Like Richard, I'm a newcomer to this fight, but I'm a long-time believer in community. And when I found out about these lines that were going to go through my community, which is in El Monte Valley and Lakeside, I, like Richard and many people, took a step back and didn't react immediately. And I really thought about, what it was that we had to lose. And the consequences did not hit me at first until I really started learning what was at stake. I want to tell you a little bit about El Monte Valley because I want you to know, I want a face to the community that I'm talking about. El Monte Valley is in Lakeside. It's a box canyon that culminates in a granite monolith almost 4,000 feet tall. At the end of the road is El Capitan Reservoir. There's a rich history in this area. The Kumeyaay Indians used to live in El Monte Park. There are cyclists that travel down this, thousands of visitors that come every year to the park. There are paragliders that fly with our red-tailed hawks and the 2 nesting pairs of golden eagles that nest on top of El Cajon Mountain. This mountain is also, we call it El Cap by locals. It's the name of our high school. It is a community landmark. It is something that means a tremendous amount to our entire community. It is all of our backyards. The power link, because it's a designated scenic corridor and we've restricted the building in this area, has made it extremely vulnerable to putting the power link right here without effective notification of our community. The power link is planned to go right around El Capitan Reservoir, right around the edge of it, go directly in front of El Cajon Mountain, and then along the north face of El Monte Valley. Forever changing not only something for the thousands of people that come here every year, but changing it forever. Something that we're going to lose forever. Stakes get far worse than that when you start digging deeper and you start learning about the fire risk that this is going to pose to our community, the inability to fight fires, and what's worse is how they bypassed doing complete environmental impact reports, environmental impact studies, and even consulting with our local fire jurisdiction. They put us at risk without doing the proper legal steps they needed to do. And I really believe that they bypassed notification of our community on purpose by putting it in an area where they wouldn't have to notify us. I know that many of you here today are from areas along the route and outside the route, because this is also a much bigger issue that impacts all of us. And today we're going to learn a lot about the bigger picture, we're going to learn about the options, and we're going to learn the biggest shame of all is that we do not need to destroy our community in order to have renewable energy. San Diego, I believe, has been given the false choice of keeping the lights on or accepting renewable firestorms, accepting destruction of our community. Those are not the choices we need to make. We have real options for renewable energy. And if you think about follow the money, if we actually all put solar panels on our homes and we really succeeded in communities to create renewable energy, that takes money out of the pockets of SDG&E. They are going to fight hard to own the energy so that we are dependent on them for the energy. You'll also learn today that even though they package this up as a green energy project, that this is not green at all. Vanessa Russick is going to give you a lot of the data that she has gathered over the past 3 weeks of learning about this. And I'd like to turn this over now to Vanessa.
I'm not on the program, but let me just comment real quick because this actually happened to go across my property. And like I said, when I first did this, it might sound like sour grapes while it's going across my backyard, but as you know, this is El Monte Park over here in El Capitan, and this is tens of thousands of San Diegans' backyard. And I'm just some crazy guy that lives out there that nobody will remember. And like Laura said, this has been designated as a scenic corridor. And this is just one part of the whole fight. We just happen to be talking right now about El Monte Valley. But this has been designated as a scenic corridor. And how like Laura got burned out in the fire, in the cedar fire. And I'm just now building a garage, able to build a garage back. I lost my llama and donkey and ostrich in my cars and pretty much everything. It was as you all know, it was a horrendous fire. But now as a scenic corridor, in order for me to build a garage, I had to go to the Lakeside Planning Committee and I had to show them pictures from El Monte Road and prove to them that my building was not going to distract from this scenic corridor. I was actually thrilled to death to learn about that, and I didn't mind the hassle to be able to do that because I realized, as I said before, that now that view that is just so breathtaking. I've lived there for 23 years. It took me 6 years to figure out a way to live in that valley because it is so awesome and it is just so peaceful. And I knew then that nothing would take away this view. It's the same view that, like I said before, that the Indians that ground corn on the rocks by my house and most everybody else out there looked at and saw the exact same view that we look at. It's the same view that 1,000 cedar fires could not destroy. And until SDG&E came along, and they evidently just don't seem to care. And my feeling about it is, well, it's my backyard, but it has nothing to do with that, because there's so many thousands of people that this is their backyard. And as I concluded before, I'd say that in my mind, if this project isn't a sin, it's at least a crime against nature, and it's certainly a crime against all of you people and all the thousands of other people who call this and all of East County their backyard and their playground. Thank you.
Tonight I'm going to give you a little bit of the facts and figures of what I have learned over the last 3 weeks about this. The slideshow that you've been looking at, all of these pictures were taken along the route of the Sunrise Power Link. I just went on a trip on Friday along the route, and every single one of these pictures will have a tower in it, will have power lines in it. Sometimes I was standing at an exact location of a tower, and so this is what we are going to lose. Anyways, brief history of the Sunrise Power Link. It was first proposed in 2005. There was a northern route and a southern route. And I'm sure, as many of you thought, the northern route was the route, and there was a lot of hearings and testimony. The southern route was a part of it, but most of the focus was on the northern route. As it turns out, on December 18th of last year, the California Public Utilities Commission approved the southern route. And consequently, in the last month or two, a lot of us found out. On January 20th, the BLM approved the project on their land. However, the U.S. Forest Service has still not approved this project on Forest Service land. This is probably a map that many of you have seen, maybe at a SDG&E open house. This shows Starlink, which is the same line, which reminds you the route of the sun like a snake. Not very efficient, but if you're getting paid by the mile, then it looks like a pretty good deal. Anyways, so why does SDG&E say that we need this power line? They say we need it to carry reliable, renewable energy from the desert to San Diego. Is this true?
No.
We all know it's not. They're not required to carry any renewable energy on this line. It is not necessary to meet our future power needs. This even when the CPUC Division of Ratepayers said it's clearly not needed. In addition, SDG&E can meet the renewable energy mandate that California has without the line. They can even meet the 33% goal by 2020 without the line. What they don't tell you is about their power plants across the border in Mexico, or the fuel they bring across the ocean from places like Indonesia, Russia, China, that they pipe up to those plants across the border in Mexico. What they also don't tell you is it's not really for us. It's for Los Angeles. And it's even in their report. This is the EIR. This is the future transmission system, expansion to Riverside. This is the map in the EIR that SDG&E prepared. So it's right there. They're not even trying to hide it. So why didn't we know about the Southern Route? Well, guess what? On March 6th, 2009, SDG&E was fined $1.1 million for lying about the Southern Route. They said that the Southern Route was not viable because it could not cross tribal land. In addition, 2 administrative law judges, now these are people who oversee the testimony and the hearings throughout the process. Whoops. Sorry about that. Anyways, both of them found that the project is not necessary, and that was their recommendation to the CPUC, which the CPUC just disregarded. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things I found in the environmental impact report itself, and it's all of these things right here. One of the first ones, wildfires, is something that I'm sure everybody in this room has personal knowledge about, considering the 2003 and 2007 wildfires, and the many other wildfires we've had in between. Well, construction of the line. Everything you'll see in red comes directly from the environmental impact report. The construction will increase the probability of wildfires. The power lines themselves will increase the probability of wildfires. In addition, you may not know that it also provides decreased fire protection because firefighters cannot fight around power lines. They cannot drop water around power lines. They have to let the fire burn. All 3 of these effects are what they call class 1 unmitigatable. That means it's as bad as it can get, and there's nothing they can do about it. These power lines are going to travel through areas that burned in 2003, burned in 2007. It's also traveling through areas that have not burned in dozens of years, old growth. And according to the EIR, we live in one of the most fire-prone landscapes in the world. What I'm going to show you, this is from the EIR, and this shows you a fire trend model in an extreme event. Here's the power line. This little blue is Palo Verde Lake in Alpine. So this is an extreme fire event that could happen with a fire starting near the power line. This is the Campo area. This is the Boulevard area. This is the El Capitan area. You get the idea. If you live west of the line, you are in danger. And SDG&E has admitted that their power lines have started fires 167 times in 5.5 years. Next, something people have asked a lot about, property values. They say, no, it does not affect property values. We did a study. Well, I think their study was on the little power poles that we have running up and down the streets, not on 170-foot tall transmission lines. Journal of Real Estate Research. Property values 10% lower. Article from the Wall Street Journal, even worse, 13 to 30% lower. So everybody think about your property. Take 10%, 20%, 30%, and throw it out the window. And they will not pay you for it. Habitat, wildlife. You saw those pictures. Think of all the plants and animals that live there. This is a list of some species for one section of the route that will be affected. I'd like to tell you a little bit specifically about the golden eagle, one of the most magnificent birds that lives in San Diego County, which will be greatly impacted. Particularly number 1F. It will directly or indirectly cause the mortality of a special status species. Now, that's pretty scary. Noise pollution, the construction. Now think about the construction. We're going to have jackhammers. We're going to have helicopters. We're going to have planes. We're going to have people driving up and down roads that they're building. They tell us, oh, to build the line, to build the towers, all we have to do is drill 4 holes and then we just drop the tower on top. Well, what about the road to get to the tower? They have to build that. Operation of the lines. Buzzing, crackling. I went out and stood underneath the Southwest power line on Friday and just listened to it crackle. Go online, go to YouTube and search for power line buzzing and listen to what it will sound like. Especially in these spaces that are so quiet, you can't hear anything except the birds, the frogs. Well, now this is what you'll hear. Views. Again, think of all those pictures. Now, put this guy, 170 feet tall, 100 feet wide. This is from their report. This is what they're going to build. I don't know if you saw him pop up, but there's a little man down there. The bottom, right there. He's 6 feet tall. This is the Southwest power line. And this is what it's going to look like. Just imagine, what that looks like without those power lines and what it looks like now. Next, health effects. Again, they claim there are no adverse health effects. However, national organization, National Institutes of Health, they prepared a huge document on the risks associated with electromagnetic frequencies. And they found there is some evidence that associates it with childhood leukemia. They also suggest reducing your exposure. I'd like to know how you do that when they build a 170-foot tower right outside your bedroom window. Next, disruption of business. Now this kind of applies directly to Alpine Boulevard. Everyone thinks, oh, it's great, they're running it underground, and that's what we should be doing. Well, think about 18 months of construction along a road, and you own a business on that road. 1 lane of traffic, people can't access parking, you've got construction noise, you have intermittent power outages. So I don't think undergrounding is the way to go either. So the last question is, what can we do? After all this, it seems pretty bleak. There are things we can do, that's why we're here tonight. 1, keep up to date. All these email or websites are on the program. But the East County Community Action Coalition has been formed to provide a place for all of our communities in East County to come together and fight as a collective group. Donate money. We have started a legal battle against the Sunrise Power Link. And we are fighting against a very large company. And we are depending on people like you to raise funds to fight against them. Protect Our Communities Fund has been around for about 3 years, and they are the ones that are raising money. Next, spread the word. Tell everybody you know. Tell all your neighbors who weren't here tonight who knew about it. Why weren't you here? Do you know what's going on? And make your voice heard. Write to the U.S. Forest Service. They still have not approved this. That's very important. Write to your local politicians. Write to your national politicians. And if this is really important to you, tell your local politicians that this is a voting issue for you. You will not vote for them if they do support the Sunrise Power Link. And let SDG&E know that we are fighting. Go to open houses. They're having an open house. They're having a hearing here tomorrow about something about shutting off our electricity. Well, we should all be out front with signs, letting them know how we feel about the Sunrise Power Link. Write your local news organizations. But whatever you do, please do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'm not supposed to have any favorites, but I've been married to her for 15 years, so she's my favorite. Now, after I got in touch with Laura and learned even more about the Sunrise Power Link, and Vanessa started reading to me excerpts from the EIR, and I really started to get excited, I did the next step, which was starting to rant. And who do I rant to? Well, I rant at politicians. So I started looking up the various local politicians, representatives, senators, president, and just started firing off emails. And of course, you know what I heard back from most of them? Nothing. And from a few, I would hear something back, and you could tell it was very carefully worded, because they still hadn't decided which way they're going to fold. They've got their big funders over here, and a ranting voter over here, and we know which way that usually ends up going. But there was one local politician I did not bother ranting at, because it was very clear as I started reading about what's been going on for the last 3 years, that there was at least one out there who's been very loud, very vocal, and forcefully arguing against the power link basically since its inception. And we are very fortunate to have her here tonight, Diane Jacobs.
Thank you very much. And Vanessa, that was a great overview and presentation and a warm-up. I cannot think of any place that is a better place to be and spend your time tonight than right here, right now, on this issue, not just for East County, but for the entire San Diego County region. So I thank you for taking your time to be here tonight. I hope you'll be here joining me and others tomorrow night too at 7 o'clock. One main message I want to get across to you is that SDG&E wants you to think that this fight is over. And I'm here to tell you, and others will tell you, that this fight is far from over. It's the right fight, and I firmly believe that we have a good chance of winning. We're up against some huge odds, but the reason I think we have a really good chance of winning is because of the organizations that are behind this, and most because of the people, and because we are right in this fight. A very smart thing that you did in coming together as an East County Community Action Coalition. Very important. Now let me go over just a few points, because you've got more important people to hear from than me tonight on more of the technical and the legal things. But how did we get here? Many of you feel like you've been sucker punched. I tend to feel that way too, and you're wondering, how did this monstrosity happen? Why didn't you know about it? You may have heard the word Sunrise Power Link, but you didn't know it was a real threat to your community. Well, your confusion was caused by the massive scope of this project, which Vanessa laid out. This was the largest single environmental impact report in the history of the state of California. 11,000 pages. Anybody read all of them? So probably Donna did. I know Donna did. You're going to hear from her. She's great. The process centered on the preferred route all along to the Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. And it also analyzed more than 24 alternative routes. All told, the possible routes impacted dozens of communities. But because SDG&E kept the spotlight on the route through the desert, other communities, like some of you and your communities, felt you were not at risk. It pitted communities against communities, or at least they tried to do that. This 3-year process, SDG&E wanted the northern communities to say, put it in the south. And they wanted the southern communities to say, put it in the north. And as others can tell you, communities were smarter, and they didn't let SDG&E get away with that and divide the East County area. Instead, we all did the math and determined that the line wasn't needed, period. In fact, the single most important thing that we can do in the months ahead is to hang together now and not let SDG&E divide us. And that's why coming together in this coalition is so, so important. The evidence speaks for itself. Vanessa laid it out pretty well. The project's environmental impact report came to the same conclusion as the opponents, all of us here in this room. The top 3 recommendations in the final EIR determine that Sunrise is not needed to meet future energy demand in the San Diego region. After all the research and all the science had been performed, years of studies on animals, plants, hydrology, geology, sophisticated fire modeling, the experts found that this line is not needed. Fire danger is alarming. Vanessa got into great detail on that. All I'm going to say, it's clearly in the environmental document. It is not a mitigable impact. And firefighters on the ground cannot fight flames within 500 feet of an energized power line. And the area where this line would go through, and I brought a big map to the hearing in Borrego to show for the 5 PUC commissioners that were there. I pleaded with them, if you want to ignore all the other facts in this environmental document, you should not ignore one, and that is the fire danger. And we know what that means. We're talking about lives, we're talking about property. They did not listen to those pleas. And frankly, it is unconscionable to me that the SDG&E and the California Public Utility Commission would move forward with something that impedes fire protection in these sensitive areas, and even more so, would increase the possibility of another major wildfire. We're facing a Goliath opponent. I would characterize the fight as a David and Goliath one. SDG&E is owned by Sempra Energy, a member of the big oil lobby. That, folks, is as big as it gets. SDG&E representatives sit on numerous boards of industry groups and trade groups, chambers of commerce, Economic Development Council. These SDG&E and Sempra donate a lot of money to these organizations, as well as sitting as members of the boards of directors. In short, they buy influence. If you go to SDG&E's Sunrise PowerLink website, you can see the groups supportive of the line. Many of them supported the line even before the environmental review was completed. Some even supported it before the environmental document even got started. And that's follow the money, folks. Follow the influence. Follow who sits on what board and why the support from certain organizations have occurred. The renewable claim is a fossil fuel lie. I would characterize it as such. In one of my earliest meetings with SDG&E, I asked them to guarantee that power from Sempra-owned fossil fuel plants in Mexicali would not travel on that line. They refused. So what kind of company claims that a line is needed to meet a renewable mandate, but cannot even tell the public how much clean power will travel on the line? It would not even accept one of the commissioner's recommendations to guarantee that 33% of renewables would come over the line. They said, no, we won't do that. Then there's the Sterling Solar Project. This is the technology that SDG&E is saying they're going to use to bring renewables from Imperial County to come over into San Diego County. The solar technology is untested, it's not permitted, and it leaks nitrogen. And worse, it is located way out in the desert. So I guess we could conclude that SDG&E would rather build experimental dishes in the desert than put solar on your roof. There's a good reason for that, folks. I'll get to that in a minute. SDG&E has dirty motives, literally. Sempra and SDG&E have invested heavily in natural gas generation in Mexico. They need to keep us addicted to foreign oil to get a return on their investment. It's as simple as that. Sunrise is the expensive extension cord designed to make that happen. Solar on your roof and other clean projects would put SDG&E, frankly, out of business. I would love it, wouldn't you? Sunrise was a decision rooted in the past, not in or for the future. And finally, the PUC vote was nothing but a sham. A terrible travesty happened at the CPUC meeting in December. I consider it one of the biggest injustices ever done to this region. In the face of all the science and all the research and all the data saying the line isn't needed, 4 political appointees in San Francisco went ahead and approved Sunrise anyway. In my mind, it was nothing but a sham. The fix was in, and now that sham will be moving to the courtroom, I hope very, very soon, and you're going to hear more about that later. The next steps, folks, is what you're doing here, uniting, gathering more support, more bodies, supporting the lawsuits, supporting, telling your story to the media, what this means to you individually, in your community. Forest Service has not rendered a decision yet. I talked with the Forest Service supervisor not too long ago. He is inclined to wait until all of these other litigation actions play out before he makes a decision. But I would encourage you to write to Will Metz. He is the Forest Service, and we did talk a bit at our meeting about, is the desert more important than our national forest? I don't think so. We have a valuable asset, not only in our communities in the East County, but we have a value asset in our forest, which is in jeopardy also. So it's not too late to contact him. And then finally, I'll end with this. My dream I share with others would be this for the region. And if this line ends up going through, which I hope not, this will ruin this vision. But what if we put solar on every single rooftop in San Diego County? I think it's a possibility. With state incentives, with federal incentives, and I think there'll be more coming from the federal government, and with the $2 billion that this line would cost, why don't we put that $2 billion into joining the other incentives and see if we can't provide solar on every single rooftop in this region. And guess what? If we could do that, we would put SDG&E out of business. And we wouldn't have to pay a bill. Thank you very much.
Well, if you're going to put solar on everyone's house, you'll have to start with someone else's house. We put solar on our house a few months ago, and it's a great joy to watch that wheel please backwards. So when we started reading about energy issues, the one report that a great many opponents to the Sunrise Power Line pointed at is called the Smart Energy Project 2020, 21st Century Alternative. Now, fortunately, you're not going to have to listen to me explain it because, to be honest, I don't understand a great deal of it. But we do have an internationally known expert here, somebody who gives his expert analysis to private companies, energy developers all over the world. And the reason he's the perfect person to explain to you Smart Energy 2020 is that he wrote the plan. Bill Powers.
It's great to see so many people out here tonight. This is definitely energizes me because I have been engaged in this fight in one way or another for the last 10 years. And this is a great poster. Center for Energy bringing you yesterday's ideas today. I would like to talk about today's ideas. Well, while we're working on the technical, I do want to reiterate what we're ad-libbing this all the way. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. One thing I want to say about the transmission line when we were working on this is that this transmission line was defeated once before. The first time it came out, it was called Valley Rainbow, and it started up north in Riverside County and was going to come down to Imperial County. And the groups primarily in southern Riverside County formed and became a powerhouse. And they won that fight at the PUC 3-2. We're beyond that now. This will become a legal fight. But that community just did a fabulous job of stopping that line early. And what I think I'll do, since I don't have what I thought I was going to have, is I can have, where's that? Piece of paper. The one thing that's, I'll don't visit that. I'm just going to take 5 minutes. The one thing that is important to understand is that you probably have already heard, how many people have heard that we're short on transmission? I've heard that. Okay. Currently, Southern California has one of the densest transmission line networks in the country. And that we have the capability, when I say Southern California, I mean LA area, San Diego area, that we have enough transmission to provide more than 100% of our needs on average. And it's important for you to know that, because what we lack is local power. It's not that we lack more transmission. We have enough transmission to take this as far as we need to go. Another thing you should know about investor-owned utilities. San Diego Gas and Electric is an investor-owned utility. Those were set up a century ago so that investors' money was assured, and you were the assurance. I mean, it's a way of privatizing the profit and socializing the risk. And the way the money works, and I think Supervisor Jake was right on the money, saying you need to follow the money, is that the way this game works is simple. The more infrastructure the utility builds, the more money it makes. And so there is every incentive to build more. And the best profit margin is gained by building transmission lines. And so whether that transmission line sits out there and becomes a clothesline, or whether it carries renewable energy or nuclear power, does not matter ultimately to the utility. Because the moment that it is approved and it is built, the money is guaranteed for the 40-year life of the project. And that alone should inspire you to fight it, because that is a completely non-productive system. California has a great and simple energy policy energy action plan is what it's called. And it is, number one, we're going to do all the energy efficiency we can do. Number two, we're going to knock down all that energy use on hot summer days to keep from having to build all of these peaking power plants. Number three, we're going to do these high efficiency local, what are called combined heat and power projects in hospitals, universities. All of this is local, including renewable energy. Local where we can do it, not local if we can't, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then only then look at building new power plants, and only then looking at building new transmission lines. Yet, repeatedly, when we get into these individual projects, the applicant will eliminate or say we're doing all the energy efficiency we can do, we're doing all that we can do, and so now we've got to go straight to that transmission line. The reality in this case is, the one graphic we're showing that I do with my arm, when this started, the projection at the state level was our energy demand was increasing like that. In 2007, the PUC passed more aggressive energy efficiency standards, and now our energy demand is going like that. It's going down. And the same occurred with this peaking demand we have in summer. Instead of going like that, as it looks in the SDG application, it's now doing that. It's not going up. So why would we necessarily need to add more power resources if things are going down? And the other interesting fact is that last year our peak demand, and in this is just a number, but it's worth having in your head for what I'm going to say later. Peak demand about 4,500 megawatts in San Diego County. Last year it went down nearly 300 megawatts, our peak. Well, that's unprecedented. Usually, in fact, this whole project is justified in it continuing to go up, boom, 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 here, both because of a mild summer, but also because we're doing some things right. It went down last summer. And that completely undermines the argument for adding transmission and adding more generation resources. The dish, this has been justified also for dish solar power in the desert. This is the reason we're going to put this line. The dish solar power, based on the best information we have on the economics of it, will cost twice as much as producing that same power from photovoltaic panels on your roof, on a big roof, but say on a commercial scale. So what is the logic behind building a $2 billion transmission line so that you can go out and generate solar power at twice the cost for you to generate it right here in San Diego County? And you would think that argument has a lot of power to it. We still didn't win the vote at the PUC. San Diego Gas and Electric is, and admittedly the supervisor pointed this out quite well, and Vanessa as well, it's a cog in a wheel. Sempra Energy is the ringleader. SDG&E is a part of that bigger program. Southern California Gas Company is also owned by Sempra, and it's all part of the package. And we currently, in fact, Michael Shames is going to speak next, we've been working on SDG&E's proposed solar San Diego plan, their answer to doing solar power in San Diego. That plan projects putting in 35 megawatts of photovoltaics in San Diego over the next 5 years. The utility to the north of us, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, which is a public utility about the same size as San Diego Gas and Electric, is proposing to put in 800 megawatts of PV panels in their service territory over the next 10 years. 800 megawatts is almost the capacity of the Sunrise Power Line, or the proposed Sunrise Power Line. And so it shows you what a creative, agile utility can do. So we'll forget that. Instead of building that line, we'll do the photovoltaics in the city. And that's exactly what we should be doing. And that is what my plan is about. But more than that, what my plan is about is simply following the California Energy Action Plan. That's our state's policy. That let's do it. And if we do it, we're not having this conversation. We're talking about when and where those solar panels are going in the urban core and suburban areas in Alpine and other communities in the county. And other photos that you can imagine in your head is that there's just great potential here for solar in parking lots and on commercial rooftops. Interestingly enough, in a project that SDG&E was a prime mover on 4 years ago, we inventoried the rooftops in San Diego. And we found that there were about 2,000 megawatts of potential on commercial rooftops, about 3,000 megawatts of potential on residential homes, and in the neighborhood of 3,000 megawatts on parking lots. This is developed land. There's no question about endangered species, secondary impacts. This is a dual use, a positive dual use of existing structures, no environmental issues, no land development issues, and because of some revolutionary developments in the construction and manufacturing of solar panels, it happens to be the cheapest option as of 2009, by far. And so the good news is everything is pointing in the direction of distributed energy, more renewable energy in the local area. But I agree, SDG has tremendous political clout. And it will take another big push to finally stop this project once and for all. And once it's stopped, I don't think we'll ever see another major transmission proposal in San Diego, because it's a yesterday solution. It should be gone, but it will take you to help kill it. Thank you.
Well, we've heard a lot about installing individual solar power. How many of you here have solar power? I've talked to a number of you who already have it. So we're just getting started. Now I'd like to introduce Raymond Lutz. He is the founder of Citizens Oversight Projects Committee, and he's going to speak to us about his on-site power generation resolution that he'll be presenting to the Democratic State Convention.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really good to see everyone here. I ran for office in the last election for the 77th Assembly District, which is pretty much all impacted, both in the Borrego Desert area and in the South area. It's all impacted no matter how you look. And I'd like to, let me have just one of those. We've been working on the vision, which basically you heard just described, but I want to try to carry this forward to the California state government, and which is controlled by the Democrats right now. So I'm your emissary to those people, even though your representative is not going to do it for you. But you can vote for me maybe next time, we'll see. I'm just going to quickly read this over because I don't have enough copies for everybody. I'd like you to sign up on the petition because I know you'll agree with it, of course. Okay, it's called Promote On-Site Power Generation. Now the idea is that we want to promote the installations. We just set up these right at your home, not a big transmission line. Whereas large solar arrays and wind farms, while reducing air emissions, cause significant environmental impact, keep the consumer dependent on utility control and pricing of electricity, require the installation of roads through sensitive wilderness areas, and require the installation of large-scale transmission lines and substations to service those facilities, just like this power line. Although we know that we don't really need it for this, for what they're talking about, it turns out, even if it was true. Whereas overhead transmission lines are costly, unsightly, damaging to the environment, pose excessive risk of wildfire, which I have a note about the 167 wildfires, limit conventional airborne firefighting techniques, are easily damaged by vandalism or terrorism. So when they say it's a more robust system with this, it's not true. And consume a significant fraction of the power being transmitted. They estimated the loss at 7.2% down the drain when you run it over the transmission line on average. Whereas recent advancements in small-scale on-site wind turbines, photovoltaic electricity generation, passive technologies and conservation, particularly when these various technologies, which will only continue to advance, are combined, make the generation of energy at or close to the point of use both cost-effective and efficient, avoiding transmission line losses, and providing a positive net green-collar job creation statistic when compared to these energies. Now remember, the big unions who put these in, they're for putting up these power lines. The reality is we'll generate more jobs, more green-collar jobs if we go the other way, because you're going to have entrepreneurs everywhere putting these in. Therefore, be it resolved that opportunities will be sought to advance on-site passive and active generation of electricity with wind and solar technologies, including innovative funding approaches to allow homeowners, small businesses, and large businesses alike to rapidly deploy such technologies on millions of residential and business properties by mitigating upfront capital requirements and providing for a means to transfer the investment from one owner to the next, and to allow the owner to sell excess power back onto the distribution network. That's a very important point. If you say, yes, if you say to people, you can sell your power back to the network and get paid for it, guess what we're going to have? Millions of entrepreneurs that are going to go into business generating power in places like Borrego, where there isn't really enough people doing this. That happened in my life. Okay, my resolution's too long. FCTV is trying to get back at us. It's trying to keep us so I can't read the last paragraph. Last one. Be it further resolved that opportunities for large transmission lines, large solar and wind farms will be de-emphasized. And when transmission lines are installed, underground transmission lines will be the primary technique, thereby minimizing environmental and fire risk impacts and simultaneously making their use economically undesirable, with the result that on-site technologies will find favor. And that's the end. Now, clap, because this is a great thing. I'd like you to sign up on this thing when you can. I'll have some more in the back. Before I leave, I want to compliment Diane Jacob for the excellent work she's done, and she's been against this from the beginning. Give her another hand. And also the new people that have come on board because it's gone through El Monte Valley, welcome aboard. Let's fight this and kill it. Thanks.
Well, you heard Bill Powers a few moments ago talk about privatizing profit and socializing risk. Well, we tried that in the housing market, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and we saw how well that turned out. It sure would be nice to have people who are out there looking out for these things. Now, fortunately, we have here tonight Michael Shames, who is the director and co-founder of UCAN, Utility Consumer Action Network, which is a nonprofit consumer watchdog group. And his group has done a lot of work in watching out for us and watching these utility companies. Michael?
Wow, Monday night in Alpine. And they thought Saturday Night Live in New York was exciting. Hi all. This looks like a pretty savvy crowd. In fact, I think a couple of you have been around the block a couple of times. In fact, I think I've seen a couple of you around the block. Yeah. So I'm going to do something that I don't think you think I can do. I'm going to surprise you tonight. I'm not going to surprise you just once. I'm going to surprise you twice. I'm going to tell you two things, and you're going to go home tonight and you're going to go, damn, Shames surprised me. And I didn't think anyone could surprise me, so I'm going to do it. Okay? Here we go. The first surprise has to do with a story. It's a story of these two guys in November of 2005 who sat down and said, how are we going to kill SDG&E's power line proposal? SDG&E hadn't actually formally proposed it yet, but they knew it was coming, and they mapped out a game plan as to how to fight the line. And the game plan said this. The game plan said, you're going to develop a case, destroy SDG&E's case, in support of this line. Just wipe it out at the PUC. And you're going to lose. But you don't care, because you've developed a record that gives you the opportunity to go to the courts, and the courts will overturn the PUC. They knew the PUC was going to rule the way it did, because the president of the Public Utilities Commission, Michael Peavy, former president of Southern California Edison, had already said he wanted the line, all right? The governor, his boss, had already said he wanted the line built. So they knew exactly what was going to happen. These two guys, one was a guy named Dave Marcus, brilliant guy, knows transmission like nobody else in this state. He agreed to work on that case because he hikes in the backcountry of San Diego, even though he lives up in Berkeley, Oakland. He loves this area, and he decided, heck, he wasn't going to let someone build a transmission line that he knew wasn't needed and that he could destroy the economic justification for it. He did. He did. SDG&E had no economic justification for building this line. He did what he said he was going to do. The other guy wasn't quite as smart as David Marcus, and he wasn't even that good looking. But he was smart enough to hire Dave Marcus. And he was an attorney. So he understood exactly how the game is played. He'd been doing this thing for 25 years. And he understood, yeah, this case isn't about fighting at the PUC. This case is about developing a record that will allow you to go to the courts and appeal. Because the courts, they don't answer to Governor Schwarzenegger. They don't answer to Vice President Cheney, who are the two major proponents of this line. They get to look at the law and determine whether the PUC had the economic justification and the legal justification to do what they did. And the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Courts have rejected PUC cases in the past where the regulatory agency has done a political thing as opposed to the proper thing. So this guy, his name is Michael Shames. Now, there's only one curveball that got thrown at us that we, neither Dave Marcus nor I, anticipated. We didn't think that the judges, the two judges at the regulatory agency who had been assigned to this case, would come right out and say, this line should not be built. There's no justification for it. The two judges who took all the evidence, heard all the facts, issued a stinging decision saying, we're not going to suggest a north line, we're not going to suggest a southern line. This line is a sham, and it should not be built. That kind of decision by an administrative law judge carries a lot of weight in the courts. And we simply didn't expect we were going to win that big at the PUC level. So we actually now have not only a really strong record, but we've got a very strong decision by two presiding judges saying exactly that. So we're going to have a good time in the Court of Appeals, and both David and I are really looking forward to this process. Now here's the other thing that's going to surprise you. I'm here, I'm an attorney, I've been fighting this line for 3 years. I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm here tonight to tell you, I don't want a dime of your money. I don't want a penny. I'm not here for your money. I got it. We got $500,000 in a fund put aside that we're going to be spending in our fight. I've already hired the attorneys to fight the Public Utilities Commission decision, both the Court of Appeals and at the Supreme Court, California Supreme Court. We're taken care of. It's done. Now here's the lesser of the surprises. There are a couple battles I'm not doing because I don't have the background and the expertise to do. And those are the battles with the Forest Service, with the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, with Fish and Game, and a couple of the other lower light, sub-rosa administrative agencies that will also have to take action to approve this line being built. The PUC is the big one in the headlights, and everybody's seen it, and I got that covered. You're good there. The other agencies, they're just as important. They're going to be taking actions, and any of them could also potentially kill this line. That's the offensive, that's the front that needs to be covered. And that's the front that I'm hoping that groups like yours and others in this San Diego region will realize, you know what? We got to pull together, get the money. $500,000 will probably come close to doing it to cover a lot of the other fronts. Smaller, lesser, but any of them, any one of them could kill this line. So you can't ignore them. But none of them really could, you really couldn't go there until the PUC had taken their action. Now the game is at play at these other administrative agencies. Now is the time for some people who know what they're doing, and trust me, in these areas I don't. Somebody who knows what they're doing, attorneys who are competent in dealing with CEQA and NEPA and all these other acronyms that you don't want to know about. That's where they have to practice their craft, work their magic, just as David Marcus did at the Public Utilities Commission over these last 3 years. So that's the message I have for you tonight. What has happened so far, eminently predictable. Eminently predictable. This power line is nowhere close yet to actually being built. That we've begun the fight. The PUC decision has now put it in play, but you've got another couple of years, at least I do, unfortunately, at the Court of Appeals, and now is the time for this community to mobilize and start going after the other lower level administrative agencies who are going to be now looking at this project. That's my message here for you tonight. I hope it's helpful. I'll be here for questions, as will Bill Marcus. Bill Powers. If you have any questions,
we're here. First, I'd like to introduce someone who has been a thorn in the side of stupid ideas for the backcountry for the last 20 years. And she may be the only person who has read all 11,000 pages of the EIR. She's a retired rancher, founder of the Backcountry Against the Dumps out in Boulevard. And she has also produced a documentary that you can find on the internet about the Sunrise Power Link called A Question of Power. So you can go check that out online. Don Tisdale.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you all here tonight. I don't do very good public speaking. I'm better, behind a computer kicking somebody's ass with a couple of letters and emails, and not have to look them in the eye right now. But anyway, I want to thank Vanessa, Laura, Richard for getting this organized tonight, and they've done it on fairly short order, and they've come up to speed in a very respectable manner, and I want to thank them for organizing this. I also want to thank Dennis Traficante from the Protect Our Communities Foundation, who has been a major organizer and fundraiser and rallying. Raise your hand if that's the opposition, I don't think, would have gotten this far without people like those I just named. I have been a volunteer for 20 years fighting projects, ill-advised projects, unsustainable projects, and I do have the battle scars to prove it. And I am a nerd. I do read this crap. But you know what? If you read it and people call you on it, you have an answer. And I even Don Parent from SDG&E has told me I know more about this project than he does. So, I'm sure he was just pulling my leg, but I think it's true. I've also chaired the Boulevard Planning Group for a long time, and as Richard told you, I started a nonprofit group about 20 years ago called Backcountry Against the Dumps to stop the Campbell landfill, and it's not there yet. They're still trying, but it's not there yet. So currently, for the last 5 years, been battling industrial wind turbine projects and the Sunrise Power Link. I saw the handwriting on the wall a long time ago. Anytime you are on any map, anywhere, you had better pay attention. So we did. Last year, my group, Backcountry Against Dumps, got together with Diane Conklin, standing over here from Muscle Grade Road Alliance. Diane and my daughter Tracy Tisdale, a graduate of Mountain Empire and UCSD, put this together in a matter of months. It's not the best, but it gives you an overview of what's going on. And at the time we put it together, we didn't know which route was going to be selected, and we didn't have a whole lot of time. But it's available on the internet. There's a few copies here, and anybody who hasn't seen it, I would suggest you look at it because there's some good interviews there with Michael Shames and Bill Powers and Supervisor Jacob, but also Donald Felsinger, Sempra's CEO. We took a video right off of their webpage where he says, when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, you need natural gas for backup energy. And it shows all of their LNG infrastructure in Baja and the big receipt terminal that they just built and the gas line going in and the water line going in just south of the border, which is needed for new gas-fired power plants in the Jacume La Rumarosa area, where they just happen to have another cross-border power line proposed with a presidential grid application right now. They say it's for 1,250 megawatts of wind energy, but guess what? Wind energy needs about 70, 80, 90% backup generation from LNG. And guess who's ready with that? Sempra. So there's a lot of stuff to pay attention to, and I hope that you do. And I also want to thank Supervisor Jacob. She is our only elected official to step up to the plate and be active. Congressman Filner calls it the death link. He doesn't like it, but I haven't seen the letters. Where are the letters? He came to one meeting in Alpine, but I haven't seen him since. I appreciate his effort, but I would like to see more. Those of our elected officials who are missing in action, Senator Denise Ducheney, Joel Anderson, our Assemblyman, Dennis Hollingworth, both Congressmen Hunter, Senators Boxer and Feinstein. I have been on their cases from the beginning. They need to hear from you. You know, they know what I got to say. They need to know there's a whole bunch of other people out there. And I would say right now here in this room, I say this every time I come to a meeting like this, Semper has their spies here. They are taking down names. They are paying attention to what we're saying, and they're going to try and counter all of our efforts and all of our actions and everything we try to do. But they tend to underestimate, due to their arrogance, the sheer power of the people when they put their minds and their hearts and their spirits and their wallets into the fight. You already heard that SDG really wanted to run this line through Anza Borrego and connect up to LA. So all of the environmental review was focused on that route. But what you haven't been told is that Anza Borrego State Park will still be impacted by this line. They purchased, Nature Conservancy purchased several thousand acres out in Jacumba to complete their California Binational Corridor. And BLM already approved that initiative. And their idea is to connect the Anza Borrego State Park with the Mexican Park on the Sierra Juarez. Well, Governor does not want the park to accept that property into the park because it would impact the approval of the Sunrise Power Link. So that property is being held on the side until the power link is up and built, and then they will feel safe to accept it into the park. Now, that's, in my opinion, is a travesty. But Governor Schwarzenegger and Vice President Dick Cheney both stuck their noses into this project big time. The Schwarzenegger, the Governator, he was very active in pushing for this project. And Dick Cheney's office actually called the El Centro BLM office asking about the East County Resource Management Plan, which is an underlying approval for this project. The proper studies and surveys were never done, and in my opinion, many shortcuts and illegal maneuvers were taken to approve this project along the way. Just like Michael Shame said, with the state agencies and PUC, these decisions will not stand up in a court of law. But we need your help to help pay for the attorneys to do that. You know, my group has already raised and spent $34,000 approximately on this. Protect Our Communities Foundation, Musgrave Road Alliance, and others are kicking into this. But you know, these are little community funds. We need help. We need people. We need money. That's the bottom line. You already know that power lines can spark fires and impede firefighting operations, but did you know that giant wind turbines also malfunction, spark fires, and impede firefighting? They also throw blades and flaming debris up to half a mile, and they represent a significant health threat to people who live near them due to the sub-auditory vibrations which impact the inner ear, and shadow flicker impacts which can trigger epileptic seizures. Wind turbines today are between 400 and 600 feet tall. They're currently proposed, about 130 of them on BLM land in McCain Valley. And as I said before, Semper Energy is proposing 500 to 600 in the Sierra Juarez, starting 200 feet south of the border to Jacumba. Now that's really, in my opinion, a front for the LNG. But if they manage to get all this done, guess what? They won't need one power line, they'll need 3 or 4. It's much better to build renewable energy in the basin, on all of our rooftops, and everybody else. Let us have the incentives. Let us, generate the energy, and let us make some extra money, by putting energy back on the grid. Also, applications for test towers for turbines have been filed for Cleveland National Forest land. Forest lands abut Alpine and Lakeside. I've done a lot of work. You can go to www.windaction.org and windwatch.org, and you can see stories and articles and video and reports from around the globe. Health problems and fire problems and collapse of towers. It's an emerging issue that has not really made it to the national media on a regular basis. Now, Michael was talking about the importance of laying a record and groundwork. Now, Backcountry Against Dumps, my group, and also the Boulevard Planning Group that I chair, has been busy doing that on the federal issues. We have been laying the legal groundwork for the cases that we are trying to pursue now by commenting on the Bureau of Land Management Resource Management Plan for Eastern San Diego County. They illegally downgraded about 40,000 acres to allow industrial turbines and a brand new plan amendment for the Sunrise Power Lake, where there are currently no transmission lines. It's wilderness. It's the highest used recreation area in Eastern San Diego County. If you haven't been there, I advise you to go and take a look before they try to destroy it. The Protect Our Communities Foundation, East County Community Action Coalition, and BAD, my group, have all joined together, and we've got the same attorney. His name is Stephen Boker, and I've been working with him for a while on the Campo landfill and other issues, and he is I don't know how to say it other than I just love him. He's got an attitude, and he doesn't take any crap off anybody, and he doesn't bow down to the arrogance of some of these people. He's just got the spirit of a street fighter, and he's got the knowledge and the attitude to go with it. And he may even take over some of the fight that Sierra Club and Center for Biological Diversity have been doing at the CPUC. We're not sure how all that's going to go. But like I said, it all takes money. Some of the issues that we're dealing with are the violation of the Endangered Species Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, the Federal Lands Planning Management Act, the National Heritage Protection Act. There's also a lot of fire issues and other issues that we're going to be dealing with. We've already filed the appeal, the notice of appeal, and the request for injunction and stay for the BLM decision approving the Sunrise Power Lake project itself. And that also involves, they were the federal lead on this project. Like has already been said before, Will Metz, the supervisor for the Cleveland National Forest, is a target right now to focus your attention, request that they do a supplemental environmental impact statement for the forest plan for the Sunrise route, and demand public hearings in Alpine and Mountain Empire. Now, they're thinking they might be able to get away without doing this, but with public pressure, and our attorney's going to be sending a letter, that's one of our goals. And don't forget to show up tomorrow night for the PUC hearing. SDG&E is talking about turning off our power during certain high wind events and low humidity. This isn't the third world, and we are not third-class citizens. So they want to run the power line through us, but they don't want to run the power to us when it's inconvenient. They want to shift the liability, and there's no way, no how, that any of us should accept that without a major fight. Anyway, I've been doing this for a while, and we really do need to stick together because they are going to try and divide and conquer. SDG&E is already going around to the fire departments, volunteer fire departments, agencies offering them free emergency generators, radio communications or when the power is shut off, any other freebies they can think of that will buy their favor. And so you need to pay attention to your little local fire boards. You need to go to the meetings. You need to make it known that you don't really want to sell out. You know, your life, your livelihood, your property is not worth a free generator. So pay attention and speak up. And please, whatever you do, fill up the donation jars, pass the hat, you know, give us your tax refund if you have one. Anything, nickels, dimes, rob your kids' piggy bank or whatever, but we need some help, and because, you know, I donate my time. My husband's incredibly patient to allow me to donate my time. It's more than full time. If I got paid, I'd be a rich woman. I could pay the attorney myself. In fact, I do half the time. But please step up to the plate and help us. And thank you, Bill Powers, Michael Shane, Supervisor Jacob, and everybody put on the meeting tonight. We need your help. Thank you.
when I started looking for the people who were fighting the power link out in East County, talked to both Donna and Laura, and they both directed me to Dennis Traficante and his Protect Our Communities group. And I got to tell you, I was a little skeptical because he's from up in Santa Isabel. They already won. And I'm like, hey, they won their fight. Why is he going to care about us? Well, then I met Dennis. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dennis. Dennis is a runner. And I know for some of you, long distance running is running out to the car. And some of you, long distance might be, a mile and a half on a treadmill while you're watching TV. And there are a few diehards out there that might have run a marathon once, maybe even 2. Well, for Dennis, that's a warm-up. He runs those 100-mile races. The ones where they're out there running in the middle of the night. Dennis is one of those crazy guys that runs those races. And that told me a lot about Dennis. He doesn't quit. He has the patience and the tenacity to see this through to the end. And Diane Jacobs, she mentioned that this is a David and Goliath fight. Well, he is one of our slingshots. Dennis?
I've prepared this speech, for about 2 hours today, and I'm looking at it. And this is the first time I've spoken right near the end of a meeting. And I realized my speech has been narrowed down to 4 things. One is the poster. One is a Wall Street Journal article. One is Donna Tisdale. And one is dancing. So let me get started. First of all, Bill Powers didn't notice something on the poster. That poster was drawn up by my daughter, April, and he didn't tell you the meaning of that card at the bottom of the poster. He didn't realize that that's an Edsel. Number 2, regarding Donna. First, Ed, are you going to talk to her about what she said about Steve Bolter? I want to tell you about Donna. Tough personality. She's the type of person that when she says something, she really means it. She doesn't beat around the bush, does she? I think you feel like when she's talking to you and she means it, it's like poking you right in between the eyes. I want to tell you also about Donna Tisdale, another thing that's interesting about her. Her initials are DT. And so is mine. And I'm not much different than Donna. Just ask SDG&E. This meeting was organized by 3 ladies. Not organized, but there's 3 ladies that are involved in this activity, and you've met them all tonight. That's Vanessa, that's Laura, and Donna. I remember back when I heard about how the Rainbow Ladies beat down SDG&E and SEPRA when they tried to build that power line that I think Michael or somebody else mentioned about, and they won. They beat it. And I think from now on, I'm going to call them the Rainbow Ladies, because I think that we're going to win this battle, but we need not 3 Rainbow Ladies, we need 33 of them. So I want you all to help out the Rainbow Ladies. One other thing, you knew this meeting was organized by Rainbow Ladies, or someone like that, right? It hadn't been ladies. I mean, after all, this is the first day of the baseball season. And they have a meeting, and I'm here. And also, it's the NCAA Finals. So what is this? You knew it had to be organized by someone other than a man. In the Wall Street Journal article, let me tell you about it. Don Felsinger. When companies go there and they try to tout their stock, they go back there and they explain the reasons why their stock's going to go up, and they're going to make a lot of money, the shareholders of Sempra. Here's what Don Felsinger, I meant to bring the article and I forgot it, but that's okay. I'd rather just tell you what I got out of it. They said that due to the Sunrise Power Link, they're going to earn over the life of the line, this is Don Felsinger talking to the people that recommend you, the brokers to you, to buy the stock. He says over the life of this $2 billion line, we are going to earn, on the bottom line, $1.5 billion. And in doing this, they're going to destroy your property. They're going to destroy your view, and they're going to destroy the backcountry, and for that reason. So David Marcus, get down here and let's fight him, just like Michael Shays indicated. I have a couple of do you knows, and if they're duplicates, I want to make sure that you get this message. Do you know that the BLM, with one stroke of the pen, changed the scenic designation of our public lands, like the Vulcan Mountain, on the east side of Vulcan Mountain in the McCain Valley? They changed the scenic designation from beautiful to ugly, without even asking any one of us. Donna and I went to a public participation meeting, and they said, when we were finished yelling at them for what they were trying to do, said, we got a lot of homework to do. The next thing they did is that stroke of the pen, they changed it. And we are going to fight them over it. Do you know that this proposed, oh, I guess I don't need to tell you about that one. It's been studied for 3 years, and everybody told you about what was happening. Number 3, do you know that SDG&E said they wouldn't build this line if they were required to stipulate that there would be any renewables on it? And the CPUC gave their approval anyway, and I forget who it was. I think it might have been Michael that said, yeah, Schwarzenegger told them what to do. He sent 2 letters. Unbelievable. 2 letters for the public to see that said, vote yes on the Sunrise Power Line. Do you know that SD&E is scrambling around like Donna alluded to? You know, Donna told me the last time I got up and spoke that, boy, you talk too much. And boy, wait till this meeting's over. But do you know that they're scrambling to push these wind projects in her area around Boulevard? Why? Because the Sterling Solar project isn't, if you know what I mean. Do you know that the Nature Conservancy acquired 2,800 acres of land about 1.5 years ago to be designated for the state park? It was mentioned, but I want to make sure it's very clear in your minds. And do you know that those poor state park officials can't even take that land and add it to the state park because our governor is worried that we're going to bring up the state park issue again and they won't be able to get this line in. That's the only reason the state park officials can't even take this land. And the Nature Conservancy's all upset about it because they only hold land projects for a very short period of time and turn them over, and they can't turn this one over. 7. Do you know that SDG&E and Sempra settled out of court for ethics violations just a few months ago? They settled for about $1 million that went to the state fund, and they settled for $200,000 for ethics training for their own executives. It's in the settlement. 8. Can't find 8. Yeah, 9. Do you know that California Assembly Bill 811 allows our cities to permit solar installations at no upfront cost to ratepayers? You could actually buy it with no cash down, and I'm sure you all heard too that there's also, like Berkeley and Palm Springs are allowing you to make those payments through your property taxes, so you get a tax deduction too. And there's federal credits that are unbelievable. You really need to look into it. I can't give you details tonight, but I will talk to you at the end of the meeting. Do you know that this project is far from approval and that you can make a difference? There's power in the people. Let me tell you about dancing. By the way, I brought this up too. Thanks for taking my thunder. Let me tell you about dancing. What I mean by that, and I know that some of you have heard this before, But not all of us in this room agree with a lot of different things. We have different views on politics and religion, but we all believe the same except for the few plants that are in different institutions. But we all believe in the same as regards to this project. And I say this usually when I speak, and that is, just remember, we can go to the dance together, but we don't have to go home together. So thank you very much.
Now I'd like to bring back Laura Seifert to talk a little bit, but first I'd like to, on a personal note, mention that Laura and her husband Milt, in the back there, they've been a real inspiration to myself and Vanessa. When we got started in fighting against the Sunrise Power Link, it wasn't so clear that we could do anything. We're just two random people that live out in the middle of nowhere, and we saw what they had done. They're not part of any professional organization prior to this that deals with these sorts of issues, but they had educated themselves and organized their community in ways that made them effective and made them able to fight the Sunrise Power Link. And they formed the East County Community Action Coalition that is hosting this event tonight. And I'd like to personally thank both of them for serving as an example for us, and hopefully they'll serve as an example for all of you.
Say thank you, but I have to actually say that the inspiration came from you, because as I walked around from community to community and I'm like, what do? I kept meeting people that said, we're fighting here, we're doing something here, you don't need to start over. And I heard that message, and so I'm not the inspiration is in this room. One thing I want to say, a good quote that I like is that for evil to flourish, all it takes is good men and women to do nothing. Well, today, good men and women are doing something, and I absolutely believe in community. I believe that we can make a difference. I think the only thing that's going to stop us from not making a difference is if we stop believing in our ability to. In the United States of America, if you want to believe in community, that we have a say, or do you want to believe in the United Sheep of America? Make your decision. And I really encourage you to take a stand on what your belief system is when you walk out of this room. If you really believe, then please, we have already filed one legal action. There will be more. We're determined. It's going to take money. You've heard that. Believe. I believe, and I know I can see that you believe too. And just keep get the word out. Build up the coalition. There are rainbow ladies, and then there are people in the community everywhere that have a passion that will make a difference, and that's what the coalition's all about. It's not about 3 people, 30 people, it's about 10,000 people, because we can do this. And thank you so much to Vanessa and Richard for really spearheading this, and I appreciate all of you so much for being here and for believing in our community. That's great. Thank you.
So just to get down nuts and bolts specifics to 2 things that we'd really like you to do. One is to help change the narrative. The narrative of the line that SDG&E has sold everybody is that this is cheap green power for San Diego.
Boo!
That's right, boo. And from what you've heard tonight, and what a lot of you already know, is this is not cheap, this is not green, and it's not for San Diego. But who hears that message? We hear it, but we need to go out and tell other people about it. Tell the news channels, tell the newspapers, tell your politicians. Get out there, make noise, send letters, write emails, make phone calls. And the second is, the legal fight is not free. It is not free. I mean, it's wonderful that UCAN is fighting the battle with the state, but there are a lot of federal battles that need to be fought as well. And the Protect Our Communities Fund, and you've got the water bottles, there's the address is on there, you've got a donation form right there on the program, on the bottom attachment. The thing is we don't need as much money as SDG&E needs, because they have to defend the whole line. They have to win every single fight. This isn't the World Series, it's not best of 7. is not the NCAA championships, which I'm kind of curious who won that. But, my wife has already informed me that she has beaten me in our pool, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But they don't just have to win one game, they have to win them all. They don't have to win most, they have to win them all. We have to win one big one and make it stick. So we don't need $100 million. Right? This line directly affects a few thousand people, a few thousand families, where it runs right by their houses, right by their businesses, reduces their property values, their business values, even aside from all the other effects it's going to have. And these people have a direct financial interest in it. And if they all just pitch in a few hundred, a few $1,000s, that's a lot of money. All right, you take 1,000 families, multiply that by $1,000, you've got $1 million. Now, some of us can't afford $1,000, but you can cut back on your energy usage a little bit. Send a little less to SDG&E, send a little bit more over to the POC. And the POC is coordinating these battles that all of these different communities are fighting against the BLM reports, contacting the Forest Service, and if there are legal battles over that, they'll be doing that as well. And what we're doing when we're doing this is we need to show everyone, SDG&E, the courts, the politicians, that our homes, our communities, our surroundings mean more to us than SDG&E's money means to them. And thank you. We're going to take some questions. Thank you all for your time. I should also mention that the contributions to the POC are tax deductible, as it is indicated on your forms. Now, those who would like to stay and ask questions, we will do a little question and answer session. I would like our speakers to come join up here. And Vanessa is, if you have...
I'd just like to make a comment, if I may.
Well done. No questions.
If the power line is not going directly in front of your house, and you can't see it from your house, it still is going to affect you. If you live in the East County, and the fire can't be stopped under the line, it's going to come and it's going to burn your house down. It's going to burn your neighbor's house down. And the EIR report for SDG&E shows in it that they're going to expand. If they get disapproved, it's even going to expand more. It's going to go through Harbison Canyon. That's the expansion part of it. That's part 2. They're not talking about that yet because they got to get this part passed first. So if you think that it doesn't affect you, it will affect you. Because when they can't fly planes in the El Capitan Reservoir because there are 500-foot tall lines going in front of it, they can't dip water out of it anymore. When they can't drop water on fires because the lines are in the way, those fires are going to spread, they're going to develop a line, and they're going to get bigger, they're going to be out of control, they won't be able to fight it. And it will affect the people who... So just so you know, it will affect everyone who lives in East County.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Lanham. I live in Campo. My question has to do with the national narrative and the climate change narrative and what's happening between us and the new administration, because I saw Stephen Chu, the new energy secretary, on TV, and he was talking about what the nation needs is a giant system of connecting lines. And it sounds like he's talking about what the Sunrise Power Link is, and I don't know why such a reasonable, smart man seems to be talking for something like Sunrise Power Link. Does anyone know anything about that? Thank you.
Let me say something briefly, Bill. Don't worry about the national narrative. Don't go there. There are some good reasons why you may want to build transmission lines in certain parts of the country. San Diego is a different story. So my strong encouragement to you is don't worry so much about the national story. Focus here on San Diego. This is a power line that should not be built. There may be places where transmission lines are appropriate. Not here.
Unfortunately, on a national level, the investor-owned utilities have been very effective at pitching the energy transition as an answer. And that's much more a reflection of their own financial interests than really need. I agree it's unfortunate that the Secretary of Energy is echoing that voice, but I think fairly quickly things will change. We're not going to see a giant national grid.
Where does the FERC stand on this particular project? And was SDG&E invited to speak here tonight?
No, they were not invited.
But I don't know the other plan.
The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which is the federal agency that oversees federal transmission lines, hasn't weighed in on this. They haven't been asked to. They don't have jurisdiction yet. So that agency has not weighed in and likely will not weigh in.
I'd like to ask a political question, perhaps Diane can answer this. SDG&E is supposed to be a service organization providing the power and gas to us as a community. And that's a franchise that I assume has been given to them by the county. Or how do they get that franchise?
I don't know that they have a franchise. I mean, as long as I've been here, SDG&E has been our utility company. It's a monopoly. But no, there is absolutely...
Somebody gave them that monopoly, and I wonder if there isn't a way if we as citizens can say, we gave it to you, let's take it back, PUC, put it up for bid, and let's see if we can get somebody in here who really is interested in service and making a reasonable profit, not a gigantic profit.
It's a private business. I don't know how you do that. I served on an energy group. I believe Michael, you were part of that group too, as others for a couple of years. Gosh, that's probably, 5 years ago now. And we came up with some recommendations at that time. And one of the recommendations was to have our own public utility here in San Diego County. I still believe that that would be the right thing to do. But we could not get enough support to even begin the first stages to investigate that. Guess why? Follow the money.
Diane, I had a thought. Occasionally I listen to Roger Hedgecock, and I heard your voice on there once. Just passing by, I'm not sure what the issue was. Has there been any dialogue with Roger? Has this issue come up on his program, or any local programs that you know of AM radio? Or could you address it to him at some time? It would be great to get this out.
It would, and that's when one of my suggestions was contact the media, write letters to the editors of the newspapers, call the Hedgecock Show. Now, one thing about Roger, he's gone national now, so he's more interested in on the national scene than local issues. But oh, there it is. You have Rick Roberts that does talk show in the morning. You have Chip Franklin on Kogo. Call into the shows. Let your concerns be known. But KPBS, public radio station out of San Diego State, has talked about this issue.
I probably call it KPFK. That's also in Northern California. This is definitely something for, if they haven't covered already, because we don't always pick it up, be interested.
Call the media, call the radio stations, get on, let them know what's on your mind.
I'd like to say a little something about the Roger Hedgecock show. I was invited and I debated as San Diego Gas and Electric Vice President on the Roger Hedgecock show.
Oh, really?
And Roger Hedgecock has covered his own solar panels. And Roger was joining with me to scold the San Diego Gas and Electric Vice President for not buying his excess power. And so where we got at the end of that show was, we're going to have another show. This is so interesting. And we never had another show. So I think that's the follow the money and the influence issue, because we had a good show that day, but that was it.
In Julian, we don't pick up, I don't pick up AM radio, so it's usually commute. Well, thank you for some possible solutions.
Also, I'd just like to ask the people with conversations in the back, if they could have the conversations in the lobby, that would be great. If the conversations could be in the lobby instead, so that we can hear the questions and answers. Thank you.
Quiet, please.
Ms. Teasdale. Okay. As you know, where I live, now up behind me is Cameron Truck Trail, and that's where they proposed to put the line. I have many friends that I've known for years, their children. What are they going to do when all of a sudden people start developing cancer clusters and my friends start dropping like flies?
They'll tell you it's not related.
How do they explain on the southern wing that nothing grows underneath it? If you go up the back trails off of Shockey Truck Trail, up through Terra del Sol, and you see the southern power link, nothing grows there.
Well, there are some things that grow. What's interesting to me is I've seen the photos. I haven't actually seen it in person, but people will plant fluorescent light bulbs in the ground underneath power lines, and the stray voltage will actually light up the fluorescent bulbs. It's very intriguing. And one of the people in my community who does have the Southwest Power Link over his home, his wife developed a rare form of cancer which was related to EMF. And it came about within the first year of the power link being in operation. She's still fighting it, so. Thank you.
I'm from the northern roots people, and I've been fighting this thing for 3 years. This project first appeared and kept me up at night, and I'm sure it is you now in your dreams and thinking of your children and EMS and all the things that I experienced when I found out that all the lines were going to converge right out my living room window, about 500 feet away, because of a substation of private land that SDG&E bought and wanted to put the substation in the northern route. So I got active, and I want to encourage everyone to really get active, because there's power. It will empower you, it will make you feel better, it will allow you to reach other people in the community and raise awareness, and that's what's really important. And also it's important for how you'll feel too. You'll feel better because you're going to meet people like I did that made me feel better about what was happening to me. I didn't feel so alone, I didn't feel so targeted, and I could find out what the right thing was to do. And so I just wanted to say that to everybody. Keep up the good work.
Oh, hi, Ms. Jacobs. I've been following this too for ever since the beginning of it. And when Sandag had their meeting downtown, this was probably about 1.5 years ago, and they took a vote on it and everything. Have they changed their ruling on it, being less in favor of it or anything else like that?
No.
They haven't.
Yeah. Were they against it or for it?
They were for it.
I'm hoping somebody will answer this question. In the last few months, I got an email about I believe it was a nuclear power plant that's buried underground, kind of a small community thing where it would power, I think, something like 20,000 homes or, something like that. Are you aware of anything like that?
No.
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 Okay.
No.
Well,
No.
I
You're asking, is there a proposed nuclear power plant to be built somewhere?
No. This would be like a private, like a small town. Alpine would get together and they would invest in this power plant. It gets buried underground. You don't see it. It's just a small plant. I'm not even sure it's nuclear.
A small plant, a small community-based power plant that would produce power just for the community?
Right.
Unlikely it could happen because SDG&E does have, in most places in the county, exclusive rights protected by state law to provide power to other people. You can generate your own power, but you cannot produce power and then sell it to other people off your premises under current state law.
That's what needs to change.
I'd like to just comment real quick on an earlier one, how to put SDG&E out of business, or I'll slap them into shape. And I think we're actually about to do that, and that's why they're so desperate to continue this mindset of putting in to keep us addicted to their business plan. We're just about to be able to generate our own power. The technology, I'm an electronics engineer background. The technology is coming into play now, where these photovoltaic panels and other means are becoming very economical. It's just a matter of getting the money up, and the bill that went forward to let you sell power back to the grid, very important, but they limited it to 2.5%. We need to make that as much as we want to, and I can guarantee that if they let you do it and they make it economically viable, that is, the state, at the legislators, all we have to do is change the laws. Stroke of a pen, change the laws, all of a sudden everybody can sell their power back. Then this is what SDG, they don't want to see it. That's why both parties are against, are for the power link, are against the resolution that I told you about. That's why I don't know if it will be adopted at the Democratic convention that's coming up, because they're in bed with all the big power. Everybody is. So it's a very nonpartisan thing that we're up against here. We're up against both parties in bed with the big power companies, seeing their business plan go away. But I think we're about there, and damn it, we can win this. We'll stick together.
Any other questions or comments? Not necessarily closing, but on this credit buyback, there is a bill pending in the legislature. The county is solemnly behind it, and as probably you know now, if you have solar and you produce more than what you need, that rolls over month to month, but at the end of the year, it goes back, and SDG&E basically gets the benefit of your investment. So the change that has to occur is that you actually would get fair market value for that excess credit at the end of the year. So you get a check in the mail. That's the key word, fair market value. And that's where the negotiations are. Just one quick story. There was SDG&E they can still talk to me. And there was they haven't shut my power off yet. But one of the executives from SEPRA came in to meet with me. This has been a couple months ago. He was new in town, and so it was supposed to be a meet and greet, and so we met, and we greeted and all that sort of stuff. And then he said to me, he says, well, and if there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, you can. There are a couple of things. You know, one, stop this power line. Number two, support this legislation. So at least we began the conversation. I am not optimistic that we are going to see our utility supporting this legislation. It's not in their best interest. They like it the way it is now. But I don't have the number of the bill in my head. Maybe any of you, I better not even say, but we should get it for you so you get it up on the website so you could write letters to support it. As I say that we've been working on this. This is second or third year, and we have not got it passed or through the legislature yet and signed by the governor, but that will be very important. I think that's one one issue that could really bust wide open the solar industry in this region if that were the case, because you would become, you could have your own electrical generating plant right on top of your roof. You can do it now for your own needs, but it doesn't, you don't have any incentive to produce more than what you use, and that would go a long way in doing that.
I believe we had something like that in the 80s, where they had to buy the power back. Isn't that why they were building all the, are you sure? Anyway, tomorrow night, I hope everybody comes to the PUC hearing tomorrow night, and one suggestion, if the SDG is going to get away with turning off the power, they should be required to give us solar panels and those automatic switches that will allow us to keep our power when because right now, you know, if you have solar power and you don't have one of those switches and that power goes out, you can't use your solar energy either. So unless you have a backup system with all the proper switches. So make that you know, if you're coming tomorrow night, and I hope you do, talk to the Public Utilities Commission about SDG shut off your power. You know, just lay some of this heavy stuff on them. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much. Make sure you all go home and do something.
The video will be on citizensoversight.org if you will be on the internet, so you